Is it rolling right now?
Maybe.
You gotta keep it all. Okay.
Oh, alright, shit. Oh, alright, man.
What's up?
Not much, dying finals week.
I feel it.
You know how it is.
I feel.
Let me start this out with saying the war on drugs is pretty much fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree.
I would definitely have to point out that it's racially biased, and I think that's a big part of why this thing isn't working out as well as it could. I mean, right now it's kind of pointless to have it because it's targeting people that shouldn't be targeted, and it's just unfair. But
and it's costing a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, in 2017 it was about $31 billion being spent on the war on drugs, and you just think about like all that taxpayer money, like that could go to so many other better things.
Right. I found in 2019 that actually it went up. It's up by like $47 billion now.
Really not surprised with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're spending too much money on bullshit we don't need, honestly. Like, we need to do some like prison reform, and I mean, take some out of the defense budget too. You got, how much did you say it was going in?
$47 billion.
You got $47 billion going into that. The defense budget is through the roof as well. You take some of that money out and you actually put it towards useful causes like education, prison reform, we could have a good capitalistic system, really.
We can improve a lot of things with all the money that we are wasting on pointless things.
Let's go. Aside from the money, though, former DEA agent Matthew Fogg, this kind of makes sense for most people anyway. You didn't really need a former DEA agent to tell you, but most operations made by the DEA focus on urban areas, and they don't really explore suburban or rural areas, even though a lot of drug use is going on in those areas too. I mean, that's another reason that it's racially biased. I mean, because you think about urban populations and who really lives there. I mean, you've got African Americans, Latinos, Latinx. Mainly minorities living in urban areas. I mean, sure, you've got your occasional Caucasian white people, but like, realistically speaking, I mean, even like historical trends, mostly it's going to be minorities living in an urban area.
Right. And that just falls along the lines of with percentages with arrests. I found a statistic that said the percentage of people arrested from drug law violations were mainly Black and Latino. They make up roughly around 31% of the population, but they are roughly around 47% of the prison population, though.
Okay.
And that's mainly drug possession.
Do you have a year for that stat at all? Because I also have a similar stat to that.
That was roughly around 2016.
Okay. Well, I guess, wow, that's quite a difference that a year can make. Because I have from the NAACP, or the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, that in 2015, African Americans and Hispanics made up approximately 32% of the U.S. population, but they comprised of 56% of all incarcerated people in 2015, mostly for drug possession charges.
Really?
Another thing that's really, really screwed up is that African Americans and whites use drugs at similar rates, but the imprisonment rate of African Americans for drug charges is almost 6 times that of whites, and that's another NAACP stat. So, I mean, that's ridiculous to me, because it shows that, I mean, people are being targeted, really.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Because I mean, if it's the same rate between whites and blacks, then like,
why is there disparity?
There shouldn't be.
Exactly. I
mean, it would make more sense. I mean, if policing was done fairly, you wouldn't have to worry about stuff like that. It would just be, you do it by the book to a T, and you'd be able to successfully, make your operation through, and you'd be able to, get these people off the streets. However, I mean, most of the crime that comes through, people are getting arrested on possession charges.
Yes.
It's not even for the dangerous. It's not like, it's not drug trafficking. It's not selling. It's not, any of that. It's just, if you have it on you, you're a menace to society. Right. So I mean, especially if you're a minority, you have that element of intersectionality where if you're a minority, especially like if you're a minority or like minority female, like, or impoverished, really too, like that's where they're gonna come. I mean, if we're looking back at a book we read, the Black Lives Matter book, that showed too, like, these poor areas are over policed, and it's
Well, and they even say within the book that you could see both black and white kids doing the same drug, but
Yeah.
the police 9 times out of 10 would focus on the black community and black students within the school doing the drugs and not even go after
and
the white
that's
kids.
just so deeply ingrained in our like policing society, and I think hopefully with this newer generation of law enforcement coming in, I think this is more so just an older generation thing. You know, they've been so ingrained with racism and all these other stereotypes that have come into play. But I think once you get the newer generation of law enforcement, and you're gonna have judges, you're gonna have lawyers, you're gonna have police officers, all sorts of, you know, any type of corrections officer too, they're gonna be, I feel like hopefully, this is being really hopeful, that they're gonna actually be able to put biases aside and,
Right.
you know, push past it. Because I mean, for like our parents' generation right now, like their parents grew up with so much more racism. I mean, especially if they were born in like the 30s or the 20s. Because I mean, I have an old ass grandpa. He's like 84 years old. He was around that stuff, you know. I mean, I even hear him still not constantly, but he occasionally drops an N-word here and there. But you know, that's
Granted,
what you
does
get.
the same exact thing.
That's what you get when he's an 84-year-old Pollock. So you know.
Yeah, and I mean, going along the lines of drug use within black and white community, marijuana is used throughout any
Oh, yeah.
community, no matter what race you are. I have a statistic here from the ACLU, or the American Civil Liberties Union. In 2017, the number of those charged with marijuana law violations who were arrested for possession, and this possession only, was roughly 90%.
Yeah, you know, that really doesn't surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, especially when you're talking about crimes that come with marijuana.
Right.
That's just easy for police to target, and I mean, it's like you said, it's used all over every society, every ethnic group. I mean, you see it everywhere. It's hard to not come across. I mean, especially in a college town. But I mean, if a cop sees, you know, like a black guy, a white guy, I mean, you already know who he's gonna go pick.
Right.
To go, you know, hey, you know, what you got over there?
Mm-hmm.
You smell weird. Or like even like the statistics with police pulling them over, like pulling people over. Like if you pull over a white guy, I mean, the cop's gonna go over, you know, like with me when I rolled through a stop sign. And the cop's like, oh, you had anything to drink tonight? Anything illegal in the car? And I was like, no, officer, like there's nothing in here. But you know,
He's going through protocol.
yeah. But in some cases, you know, if it's a black guy going through, I've had some of my black friends that'll roll through, you know, they've had to have their cars searched.
Mm-hmm.
Just based off of that, you know, the cop will roll through and be like, oh, it smells like marijuana in here, I need to search the car, and
And there will be nothing.
yeah, and there'll be nothing, and then, you know, my friends wanting to comply and just people wanting to comply, I'll be like, sure, but I mean, realistically, they don't even need to let them,
Right.
but
And that's crazy too, because if you think about it, that doesn't just directly affect black people. It also affects I don't expect wow, words. It goes against I don't know, Spanish people and Mexicans. Latinx, yeah. I found a statistic again by the ACLU. Simple marijuana possessions was the 4th most common cause of deportation for any offense in 2013.
See, that's really fucked up to me. I mean, honestly,
Yep.
if you can deport someone solely based off the fact that they're doing what a lot of people in the United States are doing, just, you know,
It
try
gets,
to smoke a joint here and there, you know, enjoy their little
Yeah.
doobie, you know.
It gets better too, because more than 13,000 of those people were deported in 2013 or 2012 and 2013 just for simple marijuana possession.
Yeah, like, could you imagine that? Like, that's just your friend right there, too.
Yep.
Like, he comes in and he wants to have a good time, you know, light up, you know, enjoy himself, relax.
Mhm.
The next thing, you know, taking you out, I mean, maybe not busting down your door, that's probably a little bit too extreme, but, I mean, if you're found with any bit of it on you, like,
Right.
it's ridiculous. I mean, marijuana's not gonna hurt anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless it's laced, but, you know, that's shit you gotta look out for.
Yeah.
But it's just pissing me off because you know how many people I have tons of friends that do it and they enjoy it every day, and you know they don't have to worry about that. But when you're someone who's here on that sort of status,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it. I mean, I don't want to say they shouldn't be doing it because it's legal now,
Right.
But I mean now in Michigan, you know, you've got less of a chance of it happening because of the legality of it now. But still, like if you're outside of somewhere where it's not legal, even if, you know, the tiniest bit will get you in a boatload of trouble. And
But that kind of just goes along the line of common sense. Granted, I'm not saying that people